live. We'll do it live. But Donald Trump's State of the Union, the longest State of the Union, he was holding on to that podium for dear life. I saw it, so you didn't have to. Numerous lies, just a whole bunch of whoppers. You would think that maybe it would move the needle. It didn't. Danielle, the polls have come out that it was the lowest rated, if you will, in terms of approval rating, State of the Union in years. Only 38% of the people who saw it liked it, which is kind of corresponding with his favorability rating, which is at 36%. Danielle, we haven't talked, I think, since the latest polls came out, where he's negative double digits with Latinos, negative double digits with young people, 22 to 26% with independents. He got slapped by the Supreme Court when it comes to his tariffs. And then he proceeded, I don't know if you saw the entire State of the Union, he just gaslit everyone. He's like, prices are down. No, they're not. Gas prices are down. No, they're not. Economy is doing great. No, it's not. Inflation is down. No, it's not. And I'm going to, hey, JD, where are you? JD, you're going to be the head of, you're going to take on fraud. Okay. You're going to take on fraud. Maybe they should start with, I don't know, the White House, Danielle? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be too much work for them. Look, and I tell people this. I didn't watch the State of the Union because I was like, I'm going to watch the clips. I protect my energy. I do not need to watch that man lie, spread racism and hate and misogyny, and just sound like an absolutely demented idiot, right? Like I don't need to sit there for 3 hours and do that. That being said, uh it's nothing new. And I think that what you said, because I watched it this morning, I watched you this morning when you were with Jim Acosta last night. And I was like, when you said that he was, what did you call him? You called him some type of like washed up carnival.
I said, he said like an old carnival barker. And
Yeah, an old carnival barker that is no longer entertaining, right?
yes,
That's lost the ability to entertain. And I thought that was such an apt example to give of him. Like that's exactly what he is. He is Barnum and Bailey Circus, right? That has been traveling across the country back and forth for 10 years with the same fucking songs, the same act, and everyone is bored and they're over it. So there's a thing about Donald Trump last night where one, the historic time frame was all about his ego and wanting to beat Bill Clinton. And it's just so representative of Donald Trump and MAGA that it's not even, I want to do this speech for its substance. It's like, I just want it to be the longest that it's ever been. It had no substance. It had no bearing on the lives of people. It wasn't something that historians are going to remember decades from now. It was just a long, washed up boat of fucking lies, right? Like, and so you think about that and you realize that Donald Trump, that's all he is a carnival. Like, all he is a circus that nobody wants to see anymore. The tickets, they can't give them away. And the longer that he speaks, the more that people realize I've heard this tune before.
that's right.
And I'm over it. And again, I know we'll get into more, but I just think that your analogy to him is just so spot on. It's like when you're a little kid and you think about going to the circus for the first time, it's exciting, it's interesting, it's different. Woo, look at the acts. And then all of a sudden, like, you're sitting up closer and you realize that the people are miserable at the circus. They've been on the road for
Yeah,
the
the kids
longest
are
time.
crying.
The kids are crying. The food is stale. The place stinks of elephant shit. Like, it just is. It doesn't have the allure that it did, and that's Donald Trump up close and personal.
You're the smart woman who did not watch. I'm glad you didn't watch. And, I only watched for the sake of comment. I was at the State of the Swamp yesterday with Defiance and a whole bunch of folks. And then Acosta and a few others said, hey, come on. So I saw it. I didn't want to see it, Danielle. It was 2 hours of my life. And, honestly, and I had this conversation with a couple of people last night. I had this conversation with Mehdi. Danielle asked me, like, weren't you fasting? And
I was like,
Mehdi and I found this one halal restaurant down the street in like the mall. We scarfed our food, ran over, which is why we had the energy. But while Mehdi and I were walking to the event, I was like, Mehdi, man, like, aren't you just look how much time this has taken? And Mehdi said,
Yeah.
that's why I told people the lesser of two evils, right? Yes, with Kamala Harris, we wouldn't have to worry about this, man. With Kamala Harris, we wouldn't have to worry about, oh, I don't know, ICE agents killing people. We wouldn't have to worry about stupid trade wars. I don't know if it would have been perfect. Not gonna say it would have been perfect, but we could have had like normalcy. We could have competence. And I talked to Asha Rangappa about this. I talked to Ellie Leonard, a bunch of people. I'm like, look how much time it's taken. Look how much of my life I've given,
Yeah.
right? Like 10
Yeah.
years. I should have been writing novels. I should have been like, I don't know, writing another play. I don't know, maybe sleep. Maybe, I don't know, play some video games, Danielle. But this is what fascism does. Fascists come for everyone at the end. And it's, what did Toni Morrison say? The ultimate goal of racism is
It,
exhaustion and distraction.
and distraction.
Yeah, but with racism and fascism combined together with this white supremacist regime, like look at the time theft, Danielle.
It's 10 years. And I think that, I was on with Jared earlier today, and the thing that we must understand is that even though I chose not to turn on the show, right? It was still occupying my mind. Right. And that's what Donald Trump, that's what fascism has done. It has seeped into every single part of our lives, and it zaps energy. Like I say to myself, my God, I mean, I know that I'm getting older, but like, why am I so goddamn tired all the time? Why do I feel like, every day I just feel like I'm just trying to crawl to the end of the day? And it isn't just like the aging process. It's the fact that talking about this, living in this is like trying to breathe in sludge. Like it just enters into every bit of our pores. It enters into our spirit and it zaps all of our energy. And that's why it's really important. And I said this earlier, for people to find ways to protect their energy, because the part of fascism that is really sneaky and undercover is the way that it's a thief, not only of you monetarily, but of your energy, of your spirit, of your hope, of your faith. It robs us daily, all day long. And it's a lot to contend with on a regular basis. I mean, I didn't, I'll tell folks why I truly did not watch, because yesterday I was at the end of my rope at the idea that this man that has been credibly accused of raping a child and physically assaulting her. 4 times the FBI interviewed this woman, 4 times. That should have stopped the fucking news cycle yesterday. It should have stopped it dead in its tracks. And you and I and other of our friends have been talking about this. How is this not A1 news every single day, that the man that is sitting in the White House has been credibly accused of raping a 13-year-old girl? How? How are we then just brush our teeth and watch the State of the Union as if it's totally and completely normal that this man has been accused of the most vile act that you could do? This man is sitting there accused of it, and we just all kind of move along for the get along as if it's just fucking okay. And I'm like, I refuse. I refuse to watch this and gamify the
Mm,
State of the Union like it's fucking the 1990s. And this is normal things that oh yeah, all presidents have different things that are thrown at them. Not pedophilia,
that's right.
not being a part of a pedophilia syndicate, right? Not being mentioned hundreds of thousands of times in a 3 million page drop, and you're seeing other people's heads roll. But the man that's mentioned the most, other than Jeffrey Epstein, is sitting in the White House, and we're all fucking being gaslit like this shit is normal and just assume that no accountability will ever come for it. It's sick. It is sick and it's twisted. And that is why I could not participate yesterday.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I remember backstage in the State of the Swamp, where there were the other speakers, we brought up the same point. I think I was talking to Ellie Leonard about this, where I said, the fact that this mother effer, exactly what you said, this man has been credibly accused of raping girls. This is a man who, as we speak, is covering up the Epstein files and the scandal, the biggest political cover up of our lifetime, which I think might be the biggest political cover up ever. Folks, I was old enough in 1994. I saw the Bronco chase with O.J. Simpson. I saw it on television. It's 32 years later. We're still talking about O.J. Simpson. I think we're going to be talking about the Epstein files for decades to come. The person who was the closest friend of Jeffrey Epstein, who
Mm-hmm.
partied with him for 10 years. There's photos with him. He might have even met his wife, Melania, through Jeffrey Epstein. I want to remind everyone that Michael Wolff said, because Michael Wolff, yes, a scandalous character, but nonetheless has hundreds of hours of interview material with Jeffrey Epstein. He says that Epstein told him that the first time that Trump and Melania had sex was on
On his
Lolita
plane.
Express. This is the person, Danielle, who's in the White House. And I had the same, a conversation with Ellie. I'm like, isn't that wild that this is the president of the United States of America? We're about to listen to this mother effer in 30 minutes of the man who's been credibly accused of raping girls, that was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein, that has been held liable for raping E. Jean Carroll, that has been held liable for fraud, created a charity. Who creates a charity to defraud people? Donald Trump. Who creates a university to defraud people? Donald Trump, right? A violent insurrectionist, a man who bragged about grabbing women by. This is just top of my head, Danielle. And this is the man who gave the State of the Union yesterday. This is the
Yep.
man who's the president of the United States of America. This is the man who was reelected. And so, what does it say about our country? What does it say
Yep.
about power and institutions in our country that Democrats and the moderates want to preserve these institutions run by rapists and
Yep.
pedophiles and friends of pedophiles, right? So it just got me thinking, and I was tired, and I was like, kind of post fast. I'm like, God, this is so disgusting what this reveals about our country. And then what we saw, well, I did want to ask you about this.
Mm-hmm.
There was a photo of Lindsey Graham, from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. He brought his date to the
Mm-hmm.
ball.
Oh, I
Uh,
saw
David Ellison.
Ellison. I mean, it just like the the criminality of it all, the quid pro quo of it all. David Ellison, folks, as you know, right, is in the midst of the deal between Warner Brothers and Netflix, and wants to buy up, like, he already owns damn near every major media outlet and wants to buy Warner Brothers, wants to buy Netflix. Donald Trump over there threatening Netflix, telling them, by the way, the other day, fire Susan Rice from the board at Netflix. Netflix responded and said, no,
But
we're not.
it's even worse than that, Danielle. You know why he said that? Laura Loomer tweeted it, and then he followed up on Laura Loomer's suggestion.
I mean, it's just, I said this the other day. I don't know what's worse, Waj. I really don't. I don't know if it's worse to have been ruled by the Bushes and Dick Cheney that lied about weapons of mass destruction and brought us into the war with Iraq, and like lied about 9/11 and all of these things. I don't know if it's worse to be ruled by wicked and intelligent people, and I'm just talking about Dick Cheney. Wicked and intelligent people, or cruel and stupid. Like, I don't know which it is, but I got to tell you that, like, the pick me's of it all, fucking Cash Patel, the JD Vance, like walking up to people in the State of the Union as he's going in and like begging for handshakes, like they are just the most pathetic lot of people. Right? Like they're the ones that were like the pledges at the fraternity, that were just using them to mock them, but they were never going to become part of the frat. Right. And so instead, they decided to like create their own club of losers. And that's what this administration is, a club of losers. Right.
That's right.
The men that couldn't get women, so they raped women. Right. Like the men that couldn't talk to girls, so they abused them. And they had the money and the daddies that could get them out of trouble whenever they got into trouble. And they're not even nerds, because we're nerds. Waj and I are nerds. They're not even fucking smart. Right? Like they're not even smart or cool. They're just fucking losers. And
They're weird losers and freaks. Not
they're,
even the good freaks.
yeah, not even good. Exactly. Not even the cool, again, not the cool freaks, right? Like not the counterculture, whatever. They're just losers. And you look at them and I'm just like, I don't know what's worse. It's just so emblematic of America, of what happens when you like starve people of education, when you deny like art, when you pledge allegiance to white nationalism and like and wealth and greed, and lift up these people and turn them into deities. Like, this is what happens, right? Like, this regime is an amalgamation of just like the worst that America has to offer. And until we reckon with that, like reckon with the two sides of the coin, we had Obama on one hand that was the best of us, and then chose to walk the path with the worst so that white people could feel important and powerful again. And this is what they get. This is what they sacrificed to get it. And I'm like, and until America really reckons with that sickness, just going to continue to relive these cycles and these patterns with every generation. And what comes after Donald Trump, like you said on this show, will be worse.
Yeah. Oh,
Will be
absolutely.
worse.
I mean, I want to give you an example of that. You got me thinking about all these different things. We'll explore all the threads, but check this out, folks. This is the last tweet that I just did based on a Guardian article that came out. I tweeted the article, and my comment was, the future of the GOP, speaking about the youth, is Nazi. Just read this. This is Guardian. Came out today. New York young Republican leader to speak in Pretoria, cementing bonds with Afrikaners and European far right. All right. So he's going to speak in South Africa, hosted by an Afrikaner nationalist group whose founder was instrumental in persuading the American right that the white South African farmers face systemic attacks. Anderson Cooper just debunked it in 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
That original piece of his, by the way, was censored and scrubbed by Barry Weiss. Anderson Cooper then said, all right, peace, I'm leaving. And then a week later, Barry Weiss said, fine, I'll allow you to air it. And Anderson Cooper said, yeah, no matter how much money you give, I'm not going to CBS. All right. Stefano Forte, also the executive director of the billionaire-funded 1776 Project PAC, will speak at Lex Libertas Future of Nations Conference on 25th February alongside leading figures from the Afrikaner Solidarity Movement, members of Belgium's far-right Vlaams Belang, whose predecessor was outlawed for racism, and a political analyst from a think tank wholly funded by the regime of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. All the people who said I was crazy for 14 years, because I did the report Fear Incorporated, The Roots of the Islamophobia Network in America. I begged the Center for American Progress. I had a horrific time writing there. Can I just spill some tea, if I may? Center for American Progress, it'll come up with Larry Summers when we talk about him. Center for American Progress is the liberal think tank, right? The Democratic think tank. Started by...
Full disclosure, I was a senior advisor there during the Obama years. Go ahead.
Yeah, by Podesta, a lot of good people there. They asked me to do a 15-page report on the Islamophobia industry in 2011 ahead of the 2012 elections to, if you will, protect President Obama from the vile Islamophobic threats that, by the way, now are super mainstream by Randy Fine against Ilhan Omar, still hasn't been censored. That 15-page report, Danielle, turned out to be a 138-page report. I spent 6 months on it. It mapped out the Islamophobia network, the funding, the think tanks, the media, the politicians, the grassroots groups. All of these people are 1 degree removed now from the Trump administration or part and parcel of the Trump administration. One of them, David Horowitz, was the mentor, one of the two mentors of Stephen Miller. All the talking points that they used then, they're using now. And I told them that the follow-up should be the transnational Islamophobia network. I said, folks, I found all this information about Europe. They're all friends. What CAP did, I want to be blunt.
Yep.
Some of CAP's donors didn't like some of the organizations and groups that were mentioned. All we did investigative report. We just traced the funding. All right. So what happened was they tried to get us to get some of these names out. And then we had to make an argument to keep some of these names in, like memory. Memory is this group that is used by the pro-Israel, pro-right-wing group to go after any and all Muslims. It's called memory, right? They use like any clips of some Muslim something saying something crazy, and then they're like, "But memory is legitimate," and we're like, "What are you talking about? It's used by all these Islamophobes." So we had to fight for it. Danielle, I found out that they had a budget. You think, oh, the budget, I went 6 months instead of, 1 month. It was 138 pages instead of 15 pages. We got all these other people involved. Maybe they ran out of the budget. No, no, no. They had money, Danielle, for,
Mhm.
you remember, a breakfast press thing.
Mhm.
Bagels,
Mhm.
oranges,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
apples. It's in DC at CAP. You bring in the press.
Mhm.
They buried the report on a Friday phoner during a storm, where I then had to just phone in, right? I'm gonna just let me just spill the deal. I swear to God, folks, give me 3 minutes. We'll connect the dots. I promise. Because the same problems then are now affecting us now. Fez Shocker, who later went and helped Bernie, he was like a vice president there. He calls me 4 days before. He goes, Waj, they're gonna bury the report. It's up to you to get the report out. Mind you, I've been working 6 months. They paid me nothing. I'll tell you how much they paid me. I also did free work for CAP. And
Mhm.
now I'm independently doing the press, right? So then I make an Excel sheet and I work with a few of my friends and I get the article, I get the report out. I use grassroots. I write a piece for The Guardian. I go to Al Jazeera, all my activist friends. The report drops and they're like, holy crap, this is huge, right? Cap buries it. Cap buries the report. We, all of us who worked on the report, systematically get hit by APAC. Cap throws us under the bus. All right. What happens? In Norway, Anders Breivik, like a week before the report is released, ends up murdering, what was that, like 70 plus people, writes a 1,500-page manifesto. Nearly every single person that we mentioned in the report
Was in the manifesto.
was in the manifesto. Now, the report has gone mainstream. People are like, Cap, fantastic job. Wajahat Ali, wonderful. Oh my God, Anders Breivik. And then Keith Ellison, who was an elected official at that time,
Mhm.
he hosted in DC a type of meeting, and he gave everyone Fear Inc. And then John, a friend of mine who was there in DC, because I was living in Barrie at the time, Podesta picks up the report, Fear Incorporated, the roots of the Islamophobia network that you can see. We are so proud of this report. We love this report. Uh, all of those individuals, 14 years later, Danielle, are now 1 degree and or literally part and parcel of the Trump administration. They're literally inside the White House. All of the European ties that we had, those people have gone mainstream, like Geert Wilders and others. I begged Cap to do a follow-up report. They never did because Cap didn't care about the Islamophobia. All Cap wanted was to protect Obama so he could win again in 2012. They threw me under the bus. They threw me under the bus with the donors. They let a APAC stooge attack us. And then later we found out, just being blunt with you, that some of the Cap donors were part of this kind of pro-Israel, let's crack down on
But
Palestine.
I was just going to say, but doesn't that your experience, right? Which bravo, that was like a brilliant memory and rundown. It is emblematic of the fracture that they currently want to pretend doesn't exist
There you
by
go.
not releasing the autopsy report that the DNC is trying to bury. And what is the reason for that? Because it exposes the Democratic Party's Islamophobia and anti Muslim bigotry that they totally are fine with having so long as they can protect Israel. And so it's like, so what you just explained, it's like, oh, well, these places line up with who? The same forces that Israel uses to spread a complete false narrative about Muslim people and Islam. And they didn't want to go against their donors because they share the same donors. This always comes back to the donor class and who is running the fucking money to these outlets, to these politicians. And what you expose is that it's one and the goddamn same.
That's right.
And so until the DNC reckons with that fact that cost them the election in 2024. And I want to say this again because folks want to blame people for having what? Morals? For having values? For not wanting to say, you know what? Let me just go ahead and disregard my feelings about genocide. And let me disregard the fact that this party doesn't actually wholly represent my values, but at least it's better than Trump. At some fucking point, you have got to put a foot down or you keep settling for the crumbs and then wonder why the people that put you in office are willing to overlook your needs and what it is that you want because they know that they have you by the fucking balls.
And then
Because where are you gonna go?
Where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go? You're not gonna vote for Trump. Let
You're
me
not
connect
gonna
the
vote
dots.
for Trump.
For
Where are you gonna go?
people who think this is all outlandish, we'll bring it back to the State of the Union. We'll connect it all. Larry Ellison's Nepo baby son, David Ellison, was the guest of honor of Lindsey Graham. David Ellison and Larry Ellison are hardcore pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-Netanyahu Zionists. Larry Ellison decides to buy up TikTok. Who complained about TikTok radicalizing the youth against Israel? It wasn't just the Republicans, it was also Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
Just a couple of months ago when she was a guest at Miriam Adelson's event. Miriam Adelson, the second largest donor to Donald Trump and the Republicans. Hillary Clinton said it was because of TikTok, right? Mitt Romney said because of TikTok. So who bought TikTok? Larry Ellison. Who's throttling TikTok? Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison's Nepo baby son, David Ellison, is the head of Paramount and Skydance, right?
Yep.
They have the merger go through. Who does David Ellison bring on to destroy CBS News? Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss is free press, right? Barry Weiss is pro-billionaire, allegedly anti-cancel culture. Her entire career has been a zealot fighter for Israel. Who is she in part funded by? David Sachs, billionaire. Part of the PayPal broligarchy, him, Peter Thiel, and Elon Musk. David Sachs is Donald Trump's czar of EI and crypto. Okay, yesterday at the State of the Union, the Democrats, who's the people, women of color, Ilhan Omar and Representative Green, we'll get to that, who are the loudest, but they sat there, they stayed quiet, right? The one time Democrats stood up and applauded. Did you know the one time the Democrats stood up and applauded, Danielle?
When Donald Trump said that they didn't vote for the bill.
No, you're wrong. No, the one they applauded, when they stood up with the Republicans.
No.
When he was talking about Iran, when he was doing the saber rattling about Iran, making those things about Iran is getting close to nuclear weapons. We'll make sure it'll never happen. That was the one time, wait for it, the Democrats stood up. Here, to infuriate you more, unless you all think we're crazy, Dem leadership is working behind the scenes to delay or sideline a vote on the Ro Khanna Thomas Massie Iran powers resolution, which would force lawmakers to go on the record with their vote before any strike on Iran.
They are so fucking spineless. Like, they are so and here's the thing. Because I want to say this too, right? Aaron Parnes had on Kamala Harris earlier today on his channel. And, and he was asking people, oh, what do you want me to ask her? And he didn't ask the question, which was about the DNC hiding the report and recognizing that the whole reason was because of Gaza. And I knew he wasn't going to ask her, but, you still have hope. Her response to, do you think that we should bomb Iran, was this roundabout, like, tiptoeing, hawkish kind of response on we can't have Iran have nuclear weapons, bop, 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 talking point, talking point, talking point. And here was my thing. You know that we did have a deal with Iran, right?
U.S.-Iran deal.
You know that we had the U.S.-Iran deal that Obama had put together over 2 years, right? It was one of the crowns of his second term. That took 2 years to put together a bipartisan deal on Iran that Iran shook hands with and did. Who blew up the fucking deal?
Trump.
Donald Trump. in its first goddamn term. So let us stop pretending as if there had not been a deal with Iran and now Iran is just acting erratically. I'm not trying to defend I'm not trying to defend this regime, but I want to put into like focus the fuck shit that America does to warrant going to war with whomever doesn't give them what they want. Like that's like what I want folks to understand. Why is Iran so destabilized? Wash? Because of the United States going in 30 years ago to destabilize their government that wanted
and,
to
all,
focus.
and also, we have to remind you all that the groups that wanted to blow up that very successful, like you said, the feather in the cap of Obama's foreign policy, it was white Christian evangelicals, which are the largest Zionist group in America. Mike Huckabee, the poster boy for it, literally shares a supervillain plot. Benjamin Netanyahu and AIPAC and its donors. They're the ones who wanted to blow up the U.S.-Iran deal.
Yep.
War with Iran, right? Take out the Ayatollah, take out this theocratic regime. It doesn't matter about the spillover. It doesn't matter about the fallout. Benjamin Netanyahu, I'm old enough to remember when the United States made the phony BS case for the war on Iraq. Remember that? And Colin Powell with the vial. Who else was there? You all remember? Benjamin Netanyahu, right? So you got the Christian Zionists with the AIPAC crowd, with the donors, with the military-industrial complex, with the war hawks, and you got Democrats with the war boners. And folks, I'm not making this up. This came out yesterday. I want to give credit to Aida Chavez, who reported this in Capital and Empire, and she reported that the senior aides were talking about this, and then she also today was drop site that they are challenging. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie are challenging the pro-war group, which includes many Democrats, and literally, folks, talking about the devastation, the fact that it's ideology and donors, and how the Democrats are so removed from their own base. Over 80% of Americans do not want a war with Iran. 80%, Daniel.
Yeah.
According to Axios reporting a couple of days ago, Ken Martin, the head of the DNC, promised that he will release the autopsy of the 2024 election. Once they started seeing that they were winning elections, they openly said, oh, this will just be bad news for us. Dems, all the people who voted, nah, we're not going to release it. Then we found out a scoop from Axios that what's included, can you tell them what's inside the report? Why was one of the reasons why Kamala lost, Danielle?
Gaza. The 18 million people that stayed home and did not vote for the Democrats was because of her unwillingness to depart from Biden's antiquated 40-year ideology around Israel and Gaza, right? Like around Israel and the Palestinians. So much so that they couldn't even have been bothered during the DNC to host, right, Palestinian voices, and instead
Just one, Danielle. One.
put up how many Republicans, right? So, like, the thing is, when you look, you start to pull back the veil on all of this shit. You start to pull back the veil, and you realize that I know that America loves a foreign boogie monster. Like they love the foreign boogeyman. Like that's what they do. That's what Hollywood is built up on. And it's always been Russia, Russia, Russia. Let's just understand that Israel ain't any fucking better than Russia. It really isn't. And
And it's all up in the Epstein files, Danielle.
and they're pretty much the fucking same, except one has better PR because they walk around pretending that they're the democracy of the Middle East while they have created a murderous, genocidal apartheid state. But because it's an apartheid state against a group of brown people and a religion that Christians have decided is their ultimate boogeyman, then it is okay. But they have the same fucking tactics. They do the same goddamn things. So I just,
And fascists of a feather terrorized together. Narendra Modi, a Hindu fascist. Did you see the obscene adulation and welcome that he got in Israel today, they're aligning themselves. Their common enemy is the Muslim threat. An Arab is a Muslim, is a Palestinian, it doesn't matter. Authoritarians of a feather flock together, work together, share surveillance together, share techniques on how to crush insurgents. That's why the IDF, in part, has trained our CBP officers and the U.S. military, right? Oh, we have a problem. This is how we take care of it. Look about the occupation, right? Look at the West Bank, folks. People aren't talking about the West Bank, how Israel's crushing so many individuals, how settlers are getting more and more violent, right? So if you're unwilling to fight fascism abroad, goes back to one of my 5 litmus tests, how can you show me or prove to me or convince me that you're willing to fight fascism at home? Which is why I believe anyone who still supports this Netanyahu regime and refuses to call it a genocide is not our democratic warrior. And the data shows, Danielle, that this is the main reason, not the only reason, the main reason why nearly 18 million Democrats who voted in 2020 stayed at home. And just to show you how it's all connected, how it's all big part of a big club, even then, with all this data, the Democrats are saying, F you. You're going to vote for us anyway. We know that this potentially costs us election. F you. We've seen the data that an entire generation, including young Jews, has been radicalized by Israel. F you. We know that maybe siding up with, I don't know, some of these donors like AIPAC, which has spent money against Democrats, is disastrous for Democrats. What did Hakeem Jeffries say? Still going to take the money from AIPAC. F you. And then, folks, to connect it all together, how it's all part of a big club and you ain't in it. A person who was an advisor to the Center for American Progress, a longtime Democrat, a person who was an advisor to Democrats Project 2029, a person who was at Harvard, Larry Summers. Larry Summers was also really close with Jeffrey Epstein. And Larry Summers, up to Epstein's arrest, was emailing him about
For advice.
dating advice. Can you tell us what happened to Larry Summers today?
Larry Summers has resigned from Harvard. He
Catherine,
no
that's your good
longer,
news. Catherine said, give me some good news. We're giving you some
yeah,
good
he
news
will no longer be a professor at Harvard. There was him today. Tell me the name of
I'll get it. I'll get it.
The Nobel laureate who is an acclaimed scientist who also resigned their position at one of the Ivy institutions, is also out today because of his relationship. 900 emails, in fact, between him
Oh, I
and
didn't know that.
900 emails between him and Epstein, post Epstein's 2008 conviction.
Nobel laureate Richard Axel is not
Richard
accused of
Axel.
wrongdoing, but called his association with Epstein, quote, a serious error in judgment. He is the
900 times he had an error.
leader of Columbia Brain Institute, quits over friendship. A Nobel Prize winning scientist and professor. And if I may, I did these. Tomorrow I'm going to have another conversation, but I did this conversation with Virginia Heffernan last week about Edge, which was the intellectual salon funded by Jeffrey
Oh,
Epstein,
yes, you told, yes, uh-huh.
where all these guys used to hang out, where Epstein found like-minded individuals and or also seeded his eugenicist ideas. Some of the people in those photos, there's this famous photo, Larry Summers in that photo, Alan Dershowitz is in that photo, Steve Pinker's in that photo, all of these white, overwhelmingly white men, and Virginia said it, Ashkenazi Jews, white men and Ashkenazi Jews. Ashkenazi Jews are, Jews who trace their lineage to Eastern Europe, not Sephardic Jews, right? Not Mizrahi Jews, the white Ashkenazi Jews, because Jeffrey Epstein believed that the apex predator, the people at the top were white men and Ashkenazi Jews. And he got all of these smart, brilliant people, as Danielle was saying, these brilliant, smart, evolutionary biologists and brain scientists and thinkers and people with TED Talks who at the end of the day, as Virginia said, because she was given a rare invite as a woman, she said they were anti-multiculturalism, anti-diversity, anti-woke, anti-Me Too, and just casually, Danielle, anti-Black, anti-trans, anti-Muslim as well.
Yeah. And so you have to understand, like, For folks that are watching, the reason why we try so hard to connect all of these dots is that these are the people that are running academic institutions, that are running banks, that are running politics, that are running entertainment, that are running every aspect of our lives. So for folks to say, like, oh, well, I don't care about this, or this has no bearing on me, it has every fucking bearing on you. We just went from TikTok to Warner Brothers to Columbia, to Harvard, right? Like to the White House and beyond. And all of it is a part of this syndicate and cabal of people who do not see the rest of us as human beings
That's right.
worthy of bodily autonomy, liberty, or freedom. They see us as a speed bump that they must erase
That's right.
in their race to get to world domination, whether that be through technological means, whether that be through war, whether that be through incarceration. Like, that is their common thread. And on top of all of those things, again, Epstein was giving out these favors, right, to these fucking losers that are unable to get women, so they can only dominate children.
Yeah.
Like, that's where these people are. That's who they are, and that's what they think about the rest of us. So for folks that, again, they put us into these boxes, they put us into these places to have us go at each other as a distraction. Going back to what Wash said with regard to Toni Morrison, the racism is a distraction. Islamophobia, transphobia, it is a distraction. Because why they have us pinned against each other about who's oppressed most and who is responsible for X, Y, and Z, they are fucking raping us blind, right? Literally, financially, spiritually, and emotionally.
And I want to say this is very important. I was talking to Deborah Shushan, a really good conversation. Deborah Shushan, a Jewish American, a scholar, a doctor, formerly of J Street, very progressive values. It's important, folks. We want to be very mindful. And I think you should be very mindful of your language. Don't give in to conspiracy theories and hate. It's very easy to say the Jews. Please don't do that.
Please
Uh,
do not do
because
that.
because there are Jewish Americans who voted for Mamdani. There are Jewish Americans who rejected the hate. There are Jewish Americans who, young Jews in particular, were part and parcel of the pro-Palestinian multicultural coalition. They're called capos by these same individuals. The worst thing you could be called is a capo if you're a Jew. What does that mean? A Jewish collaborator with the Nazis. They're called un-Jews, right? They're being literally like just
Mm.
erased and saying, oh, you're a traitor, right? So there are many Jewish Americans who realize that these people like ADL, APAC, right? Not only do they not representative, they're extremely detrimental to the safety and security of Jews, right? There's
Yes.
Benjamin Netanyahu when he says, I am the leader of Jews. They're like, no, you're not. You're just the corrupt friggin' prime minister of Israel. You ain't my leader, and F you, you cannot use Judaism or me to rationalize your supremacist state, which is now committing a genocide against Palestinians, occupying them, and also implementing apartheid policies. I think you have to be very careful. And I just want people to be, I want many people who are Jews are listening to know that we will always, inshallah, carve out the nuance. And at the same time,
Absolutely.
you all know we just you follow the money, you follow the players, and what you see is an incestuous cabal, both sides of the aisle, where Jeffrey Epstein used everything and everything that he could to seed, if you will, his ideas of supremacy and eugenicists and, lack of accountability. He went to politicians. He had connections to Russia. Folks, it's true. He had connections to Israel. If he was Pakistani and he had connections to Pakistan, as a Pakistani, I would call it out, Danielle, right? If he had connections to Jamaica, Danielle would call it the connections to Jamaica. But this is where we are. He had connections to Israel. He had connections to Ehud Barak. Israel put in the security cameras in his apartment where he got the blackmail information from, right? He had connections to all these billionaires. He had connections to Bill Gates. And like we've said before, I don't care if even Democrats are in it. F them all. For example, another piece of good news. Did you hear about Bill Gates today?
Yes. But you tell them.
Bill
I'm
Gates,
like, you tell them.
Bill Gates today, according to the Huffington Post, reportedly apologized to his foundation staff over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein and admitted he had affairs with two Russian women.
Girls. That he also allegedly received STDs from and then gave them to his wife, allegedly, now ex-wife. The fact is, Bill Gates should not apologize. He should remove himself from his foundation, which is not actually philanthropic in the way that people think that it is.
Mm.
Bill Gates has been what I don't even know the term, good washing, whitewashing, his own dominant ideas of what he wants to seed and what he wants to own. Somebody did a breakdown. Some organization did a breakdown of the 10 wealthiest people in the world and how much they actually give back. And
Oh, yeah.
it was disgusting, minuscule in comparison to how much they are worth. Like you're talking about maybe giving 0.008% of their wealth back. These disgusting, greedy bastards, and starting these philanthropic organizations as a way to just skirt taxes, to be honest, like if we want to be real about it. And folks, like I was duped just as well, because when Bill Gates started and Melinda Gates started that philanthropic endeavor 20 years ago, I wanted out of college, I was just like, wouldn't it be amazing to work there? Wouldn't it be amazing to like work at this incredible, education focused philanthropic organization and provide quality education across this country and globally? Yeah, we were all duped. It's okay, because when you know better, you do better, and
That's
you
right.
call people out on their shit.
My take on this is Bill Gates, time to retire, buddy. Drip, 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 bro. Drip. This ain't going away. Larry Summers, time to retire from polite society. This ain't going away. And look at how these institutions had all their backs. It ain't going away. Folks in the UK, in Europe, as we've mentioned, the UK police have actually, done criminal investigations. Lord Mandelson, not only did he resign from his position as UK's ambassador to the US, there's now a criminal investigation.
He's
He was
out on
arrested.
bail.
Yeah.
He's out on bail.
Andrew, first royal in over 400 years to be arrested on his birthday, criminal investigation. Tragically, not about, the rape,
Yeah, the rape.
but about, in both cases, about sensitive information. Paris has opened up 2 investigations.
Mhm.
Um, Danielle, can you tell us how many investigations our DOJ has opened up on this?
Zero. Zero. Do you know what I also saw, Waj? And I don't know if you saw this yesterday, because the Norwegians tried to hide this from the mainstream press. Their former prime minister, who was named Lagland, who was named in the Epstein files and is under criminal investigation, um, he tried to commit suicide
Mm.
2 weeks ago. It's just being leaked to the press now because they tried to hide it. That's how guilty that man is. Okay. And the Norwegians have opened up criminal investigation. Poland has opened up their criminal investigations. And it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And this is why I say I could not watch the State of the Union. I could not stomach it, that this man that we know just based on what we've heard out of Donald Trump's mouth over the last 10 years and longer, about the way that he talks about his own daughters, the way that he's talked about the Miss Teen USA pageants, the way that he's talked about women like as things, as property to be stolen, as he referred to about Virginia Giuffre and Jeffrey Epstein stealing his property like she was a person.
That's right.
So do you really think that it's that far-fetched that the FBI would waste their times on not one, not two, but 4 interviews with the same woman to get her story about how Donald Trump sexually assaulted her and then physically assaulted her when she wouldn't comply?
Because I had Roger on I had Roger on last hour Folks, go check it out. Roger Sollenberger is the
Yeah,
independent
he's been
investigative
doing great
journalist
reporting. Great
who was
reporting.
the first one who broke it. So he was on at 1 to 2. I'm going to try to publish it as soon as I can. I just don't have the time, folks. But I'm trying. I'm trying. But you know what he also said is not only did they interview her 4 times, not only did they create a 21-point slideshow for internal review, not only have they hidden the summaries of 3 of those 4 interviews. Uh, check this out, Danielle.
Mm,
Just throwing it out there.
hmm
3 days after her second interview in
Oh,
2019, Epstein found dead.
yeah.
Specifically, 1 day after they inputted the summary, the data of her first interview in the FBI data house. Next day, Epstein found dead. Now, we don't know in those 2 interviews if she mentioned Trump, but I'll go ahead and assume in 2 of the 4 interviews, maybe, just maybe, this credible, just because she's credible doesn't mean what she's saying is true, but it means that she's credible. She's not a crank. There are a lot of cranks there. No, the FBI thought she was credible, interviewed her 4 times. Maybe she brought up Donald Trump and Epstein.
Well,
Just saying.
because of the 4 interviews that they did, only one is publicly appears right now, and it's the one interview that she did not mention Donald Trump. And that's what NPR was reporting on in their discrepancy, is saying, whoa, whoa,
Why?
whoa, wait a minute. And isn't it interesting that in this interview that you've decided to make public, Donald Trump isn't mentioned in this one, but where are the other 3?
Where are the other 3? And if there was no there, why'd you interview her 4 times? If there was no there, last year in 2025, why was there an internal presentation on a 21-point slideshow about this girl who was 13 to 15 in the 80s who credibly claims that Donald Trump exposed his
Yeah.
sadness, his
His
fragility,
sadness.
his
Yes,
sadness to her?
he
She,
exposed his
she
sadness.
bit it. She punched her in the face. She was trafficked allegedly from Epstein to him. And in 2021, the Epstein estate settled with this woman. A settlement is not admission of guilt, but they settled. And if there was no there, Danielle, why were there 4 interviews? And if there's no there, you
Why
have
would you
nothing to
create a
hide.
slideshow?
You have
If
nothing to
there
hide. You have
Yeah,
nothing to lose.
and
Just release
so,
it.
again, when you hear Donald Trump say, "Oh, the Epstein files, I've been totally and completely exonerated," he is lying, as well as his entire FBI,
Jim
Department of
Bondi, Max
Justice
Patel.
are lying. They are covering it up in real time, and they think that everyone is as lazy and as stupid as they are, because they thought that in this 3 million file dump, it'll take people eons and eons. They won't know the discrepancies. And the thing with them, too, is that when you lie over and over again, you got to keep track of that lie, too. And that's the thing that they're losing track of, I think, Waj, is because there's so many lies in so many different places and so much covering up that they have to do, that they can't keep track of who said what, where, when, and how. So it's like I can imagine them in the room where they were doing the redaction. Just make it all black. Just color it all in, because we can't keep straight like who we're supposed to redact, who we're supposed to protect. So just make it all black.
And furthermore, he's mentioned so many times that maybe a few of them just slipped through. And I'll put on my tinfoil hat and say, maybe, just maybe, some of these FBI agents who were forced to find and scrub his name were so horrified by what they saw. Maybe, just maybe, Danielle, as we've seen in the first release and the second release, oops, didn't see that,
Yeah.
my bad. And they decided to release this. Either way, folks, drip, 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 flood. This
Drip, drip, drip. Crack, 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 break.
Yeah, eh, it's a big club. It's a big club. Larry Summers, folks, Bill Gates. It isn't just the Republicans. I believe Danielle and I, if I'm incorrect about this assumption, I don't think I am. I don't care who's in there, Democrat, president, foreign leader, philanthropist, tech bro, academic. I had correspondence with Noam Chomsky. I really respected him. I'm done with Noam Chomsky. I don't buy his, I read his widow, his wife's explanation. I'm like, nope, sorry. Seen to Woody Allen movies. I used to love Woody Allen movies.
Yeah, I know.
I think the guy's a pedophile. I don't like Woody Allen movies anymore. I loved his Woody Allen movies. I've seen most of them, but now I see them. I'm like, do I really want to support a pedophile? Nah, I don't. So for me, I don't care who's in it. You're innocent until proven guilty. But if you were partying with a pedophile after he was convicted, you have questions that need to be answered. And the person who needs to answer the most questions is the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Danielle, I got to run. Shamelessly promote yourself.
Yes, dear friends, thank you so much. Again, you are watching this on the Left Hook and the Damn Digest, folks. We keep our content completely and totally free, but if you have the ability to become a paid subscriber, please consider doing so and supporting our work. It allows us to do the work that we do and bring you the kind of reporting that we do with integrity and passion. My show, The Danielle Moody Show, will be live at 5 p.m. Eastern. So do tune back in.
Folks, this is the Left Hook. It's Damn Digest. No paywalls. If you have some money, please become a paid subscriber. We're completely independent. If you don't have the money, just subscribe. It goes a long way. Also on our YouTube channels, you'll be watching this. Just like it, subscribe. It goes a long way. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's how the algorithm works. And we will be back Friday. Folks, I have a really good journalist coming up, David Futurell, who has been researching the Brotopia, and he did a piece on The Nation just 2 weeks ago connecting Elon Musk in the Silicon Valley with Epstein. So I've been wanting him on for a while. He'll be on in about 2 minutes. Thank you all for watching. And then Daniel and I will have this right up later today for those who missed it. Be kind, be informed, and please, oh, please don't
Don't be it.
be a fascist. Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks, my friend.